very serious video, and this is a video to help people, help us discern between what information is pertinent, necessary, and what information is even truthful, or even should be considered to be truthful, or just as American citizens, not only have we been subjected to huge amounts of propaganda throughout our lifetime through the mainstream media, okay, that has become obvious to many of us, okay, at this point, but we also, I believe we should also consider that a lot of the information that we are getting from even alternate sources at this point may or may not be propaganda. And what I'm going to try to explore in this video is some some terms and some tactics that they will use, and then of course at the end I'm going to try to explain what I think is the proper, the best way to handle all of this mess, which is what it is. It's a mess. They want it to be a mess. Psychological warfare, propaganda, psychological operations, espionage, COINTEL, all those kinds of things are meant to confuse people. Okay? People who are confused do not know how to act. People who are uncertain about what's going on don't know how to react. One of the reasons that psychological warfare works, one of the reasons that these types of things work, is because the person who is receiving the information assumes that the information is legitimate. I think that we're somewhat naive to believe, a lot of the things that we have believed up until now. For instance, one example that I found recently was that the Native Americans, the reason why the Europeans took advantage of the Native Americans the way they did was because the Native Americans could not conceive deceit. They just could not. It was not part of the culture. So when the Europeans came and told them that they were going to do this or that, they believed them. And by the time the Native Americans realized that they were being deceived, it was too late. I'm not trying to alert anyone. Actually, what the purpose of this video is exactly the opposite. I don't want people to be able to be manipulated by this kind of information. I want this kind of information to be, any information you get, I want you to be cautious, wary, and automatically assume that it's not true until you can prove that it is true. Their purpose is to give you information that will affect you in the way that they want you to be affected by the information. Of propaganda. It's information, ideas, or rumors deliberately spread widely to help or harm a person, group, movement, institution, nation. Most of us that are in the movement and trying to move into the truth are familiar with the fact that we have been basically programmed with propaganda through the television. Okay? That's maybe even the whole intention of the television itself, was to program the public. There are a lot of other ways that propaganda, psychological warfare, disinformation, things like that. There's lots of other ways that this sort of information can be distributed to the people or injected into their consciousness. And like I said, a lot of it, at this point, a lot of what we are seeing is intentionally being put there for us. The people that own the companies that run the programming, okay? If you think about the word programming, to program somebody, programming, television program, okay? That even some of the most benign television programming is still accomplishing something for them, okay? Whether it be trying to get you to buy their products, or, you know, distracting you, or filling your head with pipe dreams about what life is really about, or what they want you to think life is really about. The source of the information is basically how to decide whether or not it's trustworthy. And sometimes the source of the information is difficult to know, okay? And sometimes sources can be trustworthy and then be bought out by the globalists and become not so trustworthy, like Reuters, like Associated Press. This is PowerPoint. I'm going to put a link to this in the sidebar. Concepts of information warfare. I found it to be pretty useful. So it says info propaganda. There's a war out there, an old friend, a world war, and it's not about who's got the most bullets. It's about who controls the information, about how we see and hear, how we work, what we think. It's all about the information. Defense and action. The first thing that this is what I do, is when I encounter some information, the more shocking, the more disturbing and fearful, the more disturbing the information is, the more caution that I exercise in processing the information. And like I said, I automatically assume that it's disinformation until I can prove otherwise. Okay, this particular slide I think is pretty good. It basically looks to me like what it's saying is the defense for this sort of thing is to shape your information space, which would be limit the sources of your information, I guess, and to shape your conflict space and your battle space. So simplifying, I would see as a solid solution to this. Simplifying and controlling what information you intake. Ensuring that the sources are solid sources. I like this slide too, the 21st century information environment. It has the internet, satellites, cameras everywhere, mobile phones, and other information players. Personally, I feel that the best defense is knowing your sources, limiting your sources to very few sources. You find the sources that you trust, and limit your sources to a very few. Be cautious of any information that has shock and awe attached to it, and always try to verify the information through several other sources before acting on it, or especially before sharing the information with other people, because a lot of times information gets this sort of information gets all over the place, and no one takes time to really see if the source is legitimate, because they see the information, they panic and feel like it needs to get out right away before they take the time to verify the sources. And I think that is one of the most important things we we have that as responsibility now, is to make sure that the information that we give is supported by several verifiable sources. So I hope that helps, and peace out.